I never thought Sarah would be the one to leave. That night when she announced she was moving out and told me not to contact her again, something shifted inside me. I just replied, "Fine." Her eyes widened in shock. She expected tears, begging, or anger. Instead, she got calm acceptance. What she did not expect was what I would do next, once she walked out that door with her suitcases. Some lessons about respect and boundaries come at a high price. Let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like and subscribe button, and get ready for a story about standing your ground. I met Sarah at a party hosted by my friend Thomas. The music was loud, the drinks were flowing, and the last thing I expected was to meet someone who would change my life. I was 32, working as a financial advisor at one of the top firms in the city. My career was stable, my income substantial, and I enjoyed the security I had built for myself. Sarah was 28, vibrant and creative, working freelance as a graphic designer. Her income fluctuated, but her passion for her work was undeniable. We hit it off immediately. Her laugh was infectious, and her perspective on life was refreshing. We talked until the party died down, exchanged numbers, and the rest, as they say, is history. We dated for 2 years before I proposed. Those 2 years were filled with adventures, deep conversations, and building what I thought was a solid foundation for our future. Our wedding was intimate, just close friends and family. We bought a house in a nice neighborhood, not too flashy but comfortable, and with room to grow. I took pride in being financially responsible. We agreed that I would handle most of our finances since I had experience in that area. I covered the mortgage, utilities, and most of our major expenses. Sarah contributed what she could, but I never minded carrying more of the financial burden. I loved her and wanted to provide a good life for us. The first year of marriage was everything I had hoped for. We settled into a routine, decorated our home, and talked about our future plans. Having children was on the horizon, but we wanted to enjoy being married first. We traveled when we could, hosted dinner parties for friends, and built a life I was proud of. I never expected things to change as drastically as they did. Looking back, I should have seen the warning signs. About 18 months into our marriage, Sarah started hanging out with a new group of friends. They were the type who brunched at expensive restaurants, wore designer clothes, and seemed to live well beyond what their jobs should afford. Initially, I was happy she was expanding her social circle. I even joined them a few times, but felt out of place among their conversations about luxury vacations and the latest status symbols. Our credit card statements began showing charges from high-end boutiques and restaurants I had never heard of. When I asked Sarah about it, she would brush it off, saying she deserved to treat herself occasionally, or that she needed to dress a certain way for client meetings. I started noticing new designer bags and shoes appearing in our closet. Yet I rarely saw her wear them at home. She would leave in casual clothes and return with shopping bags, but the items inside would mysteriously disappear. Our conversations about budgeting became tense. She began making comments about how I was too frugal and that we should enjoy our money more. Late-night phone calls became frequent. She would step outside or into another room to take them. When I asked who called, the answer was always a vague friend or client. Text messages at odd hours became normal, and she guarded her phone like it contained state secrets. The Sarah I knew had always been open with her phone, even asking me to answer texts for her while she was driving. This new secretiveness felt foreign and concerning. The biggest red flag came when James, my best friend since college, called me. He had seen Sarah at an upscale restaurant downtown, looking cozy with a man he had never seen before. They were holding hands across the table, and it definitely did not look like a business meeting. My stomach dropped, but I thanked James for telling me, and decided to do some investigating of my own. I found a hotel receipt in our shared email account. When confronted, Sarah claimed it was for a meeting with an out-of-town client, but the details did not add up. The hotel was in our city, and the reservation was for a Friday night when she had told me she was having a girls' night with her new friends. I began tracking our expenses more closely. There were gifts purchased that never appeared in our home dinner reservations for two. On evenings she was supposedly working late, and weekend business trips that had no corresponding invoices to clients. Sarah also began taking weekend business trips with increasing frequency. Her schedule was always vague, and she would get defensive when I asked for details. She would come home with stories about client meetings, but when I asked about the projects she was working on, her answers were inconsistent and lacked the passion she usually had when discussing her design work. As weeks went by, Sarah became increasingly distant and secretive. She would come home late from work, offer minimal conversation during dinner, and spend most of her time texting or on social media. I tried to reignite our connection by suggesting date nights and weekend getaways, but she always had excuses for why she was too busy. Then I discovered something that made my blood run cold. While reviewing our bank statements, I noticed several transfers from our joint savings account to an account I did not recognize. After some digging, I found that Sarah had opened a separate bank account without telling me. She had been gradually moving money into it for the past 3 months. When I brought this up during dinner one night, she became immediately defensive. "I just think I should have my own finances, Melvin. All my friends have their own accounts. It is not a big deal," she snapped. "But why not tell me about it? We have always been transparent about our money," I replied, trying to keep my voice calm. "Because you are so controlling about every penny. I work hard too, and I should not have to ask permission to spend my own money." The conversation devolved into a heated argument about trust, respect, and financial responsibility. Sarah accused me of being stingy and controlling. I reminded her that I had never restricted her spending, but was concerned about her secretiveness. By the end of the argument, she was talking about needing space and personal freedom concepts that had never been issues before. In a last attempt to save our marriage, I suggested we see a counselor. She reluctantly agreed but canceled the day before our first appointment, claiming work was too busy. It was becoming clear that whatever we had built was crumbling, but I was not ready to give up. The final blow came on a Tuesday evening. Sarah had left her laptop open on the kitchen counter while she took a shower. A notification popped up from someone named Ryan. Against my better judgment, I clicked on it. What I saw confirmed all my fears. Messages filled with hearts, intimate conversations, and plans for their future together filled the screen. They had been seeing each other for months, and Ryan was encouraging her to leave me. When Sarah came downstairs, I was sitting at the kitchen table, her laptop open in front of me. Her face fell when she realized what I had discovered. "Who is Ryan?" I asked, my voice surprisingly steady despite the hurricane of emotions inside me. She started with denials, then excuses. But when she saw I was not buying any of it, her demeanor changed. "Fine. Ryan is someone I met through work. We have been seeing each other for 6 months. He understands me in ways you never have." 6 months. Half a year of lies, deception, and betrayal. I felt like I had been punched in the stomach, but I maintained my composure. "Why not just tell me you wanted out of our marriage?" She looked at me with a mix of defiance and guilt. "It is complicated. Ryan and I have plans, but I needed time to figure things out." "What plans?" I asked. She hesitated before answering. "He wants me to move in with him. He says once I am free from this marriage, we can start our life together. He has big plans for us connections. I could never get on my own." In that moment, I saw our entire relationship with perfect clarity. I had been a financial safety net while she explored other options. The realization was both devastating and liberating. Sarah must have read something in my expression because she suddenly stood up and announced, "I am moving out tonight. Do not contact me again." I think she expected me to beg her to stay, to break down, or to lash out in anger. Instead, I simply said, "Fine." The single word hung in the air between us. Sarah blinked clearly, thrown off balance by my calm acceptance. She had prepared for a fight, for tears and recriminations. My simple acquiescence left her momentarily speechless. She recovered quickly and began moving around the house, collecting her belongings. I sat silently watching as she packed clothes, jewelry, and personal items. I noticed she took several expensive pieces of jewelry I had given her over the years, along with a stack of cash she found in my desk drawer. I said nothing. As she dragged her suitcases to the door, she turned to me one last time, perhaps expecting me to change my mind and stop her. When I remained silent, she left, slamming the door behind her. Once alone, I allowed myself to feel the full weight of what had happened. The pain was intense, a physical ache in my chest. But alongside the pain was anger, not the explosive kind, but a cold, clear determination. I had been used and betrayed by the person I trusted most, and now it was time to protect myself. The morning after Sarah left, I called my lawyer. He was an old college friend who had helped us with our house purchase and had drawn up simple wills for us the year before. I explained the situation and asked about my legal options. He advised me that until we formally filed for separation or divorce, We were still legally married, and any joint assets could be accessed by either of us. However, accounts in my name alone were solely mine to control. He suggested documenting everything and beginning to separate our finances as soon as possible. After hanging up, I spent hours combing through our financial records. What I found was worse than I had imagined. Sarah had been systematically withdrawing money from our joint savings account, usually in amounts just small enough to not trigger my immediate attention. Over 6 months, she had moved nearly $20,000 to her secret account. My next call was to the credit card company. Sarah had a supplementary card on my primary account. I explained that I needed to cancel the additional card immediately. The customer service representative was efficient, and within minutes, Sarah no longer had access to the credit line that had funded her expensive lifestyle, and I now realized probably her dates with Ryan. I went to the bank next and transferred the remaining money from our joint checking and savings accounts into a new account under only my name. I left just enough in the joint account to cover any pending transactions to avoid overdraft fees. Back at home, I methodically changed the passwords for our Netflix Amazon cable service and other subscription services we had shared. I contacted our cell phone provider and removed her line from our family plan. One by one, I cut the financial ties that Sarah had clearly been taking for granted. It was exhausting, this dismantling of our shared life, but also strangely empowering. For too long, I had been subsidizing a relationship that was built on lies. Now I was reclaiming control over my own finances and, by extension, my life. The response was swift and furious. That evening, my phone exploded with notifications. Sarah had attempted to use the credit card at a restaurant and been declined. Her text message was a mix of shock and outrage. "What did you do to the credit card?" It was declined, and I was humiliated in front of everyone. I did not respond. More messages followed, each more angry than the last. Then came the phone calls, which I sent straight to voicemail. In her messages, she alternated between threats and attempts to make me feel guilty. "You cannot just cut me off like this. We are still married," followed by, "You are being petty and childish. I thought you were better than this." I maintained my silence, which only seemed to infuriate her more. The next day, friends I had not heard from in months began reaching out. Apparently, Sarah had been telling her side of the story, painting me as controlling and vindictive. One of her friends texted that I was a small man who could not handle rejection. Another called to tell me that real men do not punish women financially just because their feelings are hurt. I let them talk, but offered little in response beyond. Sarah told me not to contact her again, so I am respecting her wishes. In the afternoon, Sarah's sister Amanda showed up at my door. She had always been friendly to me, and I could tell she was uncomfortable with her assigned role as mediator. "Melvin, this is getting out of hand," she said after I invited her in for coffee. "Sarah is upset about the credit cards and bank accounts." "I am sure she is," I replied calmly. "She says you are being spiteful and trying to punish her." I thought about how to respond, then decided on honesty. "Amanda, your sister told me she has been having an affair for 6 months. She moved out and specifically told me not to contact her again. I am simply respecting her wishes and protecting myself financially." "What would you have done in my position?" Amanda looked surprised. Sarah had obviously told her a different version of events. "She is staying with this guy Ryan," but she did not mention how long they had been seeing each other. We talked a bit longer, and I could tell Amanda was reevaluating the situation. Before she left, she said, "I am sorry about all this, Melvin. I will talk to Sarah, but just so you know, I think this Ryan guy is bad news. He seems to care a lot about money and status." I thanked her for coming and for listening to my side. After she left, I felt slightly better, knowing that at least someone in Sarah's family knew the truth. 3 days after Sarah had walked out, there was a knock at my door around 9 in the evening. When I opened it, I found Sarah standing there. She looked different from the confident woman who had left with her bags packed. Her hair was messy, her makeup minimal, and her eyes red from crying. "Can I come in?" she asked, her voice small. I hesitated, then stepped aside. She entered and sat on the couch, the same spot where we had spent countless evenings, watching movies, planning our future, and sharing our lives. Now she looked like a stranger in a familiar setting. "Ryan kicked me out," she said without preamble. "He got angry when he found out you canceled the credit cards and moved the money. He said I was not worth the trouble if I could not contribute financially." I remained silent, letting her continue. "I made a terrible mistake, Melvin." Ryan never cared about me. He just liked the things I could buy with your money. When that dried up, so did his interest. She looked up at me, tears forming in her eyes. I was stupid and selfish. I threw away everything we built for someone who only wanted me for what I could give him materially. I listened without interrupting, as she continued to explain how Ryan had charmed her with promises of an exciting life, exclusive parties, and connections to important people. She admitted being seduced by the lifestyle he represented, so different from our comfortable but modest existence. When she finished, I finally spoke. "Why are you here, Sarah?" She looked surprised by the question. "I want to come home. I made a mistake and I want to fix it. We can go to counseling like you suggested. I will do whatever it takes." I took a deep breath. "After everything that has happened, what makes you think we can go back to the way things were?" She seemed genuinely confused by my reluctance. "Because we love each other. We had a good marriage before I messed up." "Did we?" I asked. "Because from where I am sitting, you were living a double life for half a year, systematically moving money into a secret account and planning to leave me the entire time. That does not sound like a good marriage to me. I need you to tell me everything, Sarah." "The complete truth," I said, my voice firm, but not unkind. "No more lies, no more half-truths. I deserve that much." She nodded slowly, then began to speak. Her relationship with Ryan had indeed started 6 months earlier at a networking event for creative professionals. He was charming, attentive, and moved in circles she had always wanted to access. High-end design clients, art gallery owners, people with influence in the creative world she aspired to join. At first, it was just coffee meetings and professional advice, then drinks after work and eventually something more. Ryan painted a picture of the life they could have together, introducing her to his wealthy friends and taking her to exclusive restaurants and clubs. I got caught up in it all, she admitted. The attention, the lifestyle, the promise of being someone important in those circles. Ryan made me feel special, like I was meant for bigger things than our suburban life. The more time she spent with Ryan and his friends, the more our life together seemed mundane and limiting to her. She began resenting my careful financial planning, seeing it as stingy rather than responsible. Ryan encouraged this perspective subtly at first, then more overtly. He would say things like, "A woman like you deserves to be spoiled, not budgeted," or "Your talent is wasted in that life." And I started to believe him. Sarah explained, shame evident in her voice. She confessed to using the credit card to buy gifts for Ryan, designer clothes to fit into his social circle, and dinners she claimed were with clients but were actually with him. The secret bank account was Ryan's idea, a safety net for when she eventually left me. "The plan was always for me to leave you and move in with him," she said. "But he made it clear he expected me to contribute financially to our lifestyle. He thought you would continue supporting me even after I left out of guilt or hoped that I would come back." When I cut off her financial resources, Ryan showed his true colors. He became angry, accusing her of misleading him about her financial situation. The fantasy life he had promised quickly evaporated, replaced by cold reality. "He said I was not the person he thought I was," Sarah continued. "That I had tricked him into thinking I had my own money. When I told him the money in my secret account was almost gone, he told me to get out. Said he was not interested in supporting a gold digger who could not even gold dig properly." The irony of his statement would have been almost funny if it were not so painful. Sarah had left me thinking Ryan wanted her for herself, only to discover he wanted her for what she could extract from me. I asked the question that had been burning in my mind. "Did you ever actually love me? Or was I always just financial security to you?" Her answer came quickly. "I did love you, Melvin. I still do. What happened with Ryan was not about not loving you. It was about being selfish and wanting more, even when I already had something good. And now," I asked, "now I realize what I threw away. I was chasing something that turned out to be an illusion, and I lost the real solid happiness we had built." I sat in silence, processing everything she had told me. Part of me wanted to believe her, to think that we could somehow repair what had been broken. But a larger part knew that some things once shattered cannot be made whole again. After hearing Sarah's full confession, I needed time to think. I told her I would contact her in a few days after I had processed everything. She seemed disappointed but understood, leaving her sister's address where she was now staying. The next week was one of deep reflection. I consulted with my lawyer again, this time about divorce proceedings. I spoke with a therapist to help sort through my complicated feelings. And I thought long and hard about what I wanted for my future. When I finally called Sarah for a meeting, my mind was made up. We met at a neutral location, a quiet coffee shop midtown. Her face lit up with hope when she saw me, but I knew my expression gave nothing away. I have thought about everything I began after we were seated, and I have decided that I cannot continue this marriage. Too much damage has been done, too much trust broken. Her face fell, but she did not argue. You are right. I just hoped. I know what you hoped, I interrupted gently. But I need to do what is best for me now. I have arranged for you to collect the rest of your personal belongings from the house. My lawyer will contact you about the divorce proceedings. I am proposing a clean break fair division of assets and no ongoing financial entanglements. She began to cry, silently tears trailing down her cheeks. Is there nothing I can do to change your mind? I shook my head. This is not a punishment, Sarah. It is self-preservation. I deserve to be with someone who values me for who I am, not what I can provide. After a few more minutes of conversation, mostly about practical matters, she accepted my decision. As we prepared to leave, she asked one final question. Do you think you will ever forgive me? I considered this carefully before answering. Forgiveness is possible. Reconciliation is not. I hope you find what you are looking for, Sarah. I genuinely do. As I watched her walk away, I felt an unexpected sense of peace. The anger and hurt were still there, but they no longer defined me. I had stood up for myself, maintained my dignity, and was now free to build a new future on my own terms. The months that followed were a time of rebuilding. I threw myself into my work, earning a promotion that had been on the horizon for some time. I reconnected with friends I had neglected during the marriage and strengthened those bonds. James, who had warned me about Sarah, became a regular fixture in my life. Again, our weekly basketball games, a welcome return to normalcy. I joined a support group for people going through divorce, finding comfort in shared experiences and wisdom from those further along in their healing journey. It was there that I met Michael, whose wife had left him in similar circumstances. His perspective, now 3 years removed from the pain, gave me hope for my own future. You will get through this, he told me during one meeting, and you will be stronger for it. The key is to learn the lesson without becoming bitter. I took his words to heart, determined to grow from the experience rather than be diminished by it. I returned to old hobbies that had fallen by the wayside during my marriage. I picked up my guitar again, joined a local hiking club, and even took cooking classes, finding joy in creating meals for myself and occasionally for friends. Financially, I was more secure than ever, having learned valuable lessons about protecting my assets. The divorce was finalized with minimal drama, Sarah having accepted that the relationship was irreparably damaged. We divided our possessions, equitably sold the house, and went our separate ways. Sometimes I found myself grateful that we had not had children, sparing innocent lives from the fallout of adult mistakes. That thought brought both relief and a twinge of sadness for the family we had once planned to build. As the seasons changed, so did my perspective. What had initially felt like the end of everything gradually transformed into a new beginning. The pain dulled, replaced by wisdom and clarity about what I truly wanted in a relationship and in life. Standing up for myself had been the turning point. That simple word, fine, had marked the moment I stopped being a victim and became the author of my own story. By refusing to chase someone who did not value me, I had preserved my self-respect and opened the door to authentic happiness. If there is one lesson I have learned from all of this, it is that true love cannot exist without respect. Respect for your partner, respect for the relationship, and perhaps most importantly, respect for yourself. When you compromise your boundaries to keep someone who has already chosen to leave, you lose something far more precious than the relationship's self-worth. I do not regret my marriage to Sarah, despite how it ended. Every experience shapes us, and that chapter of my life taught me invaluable lessons about trust, resilience, and the courage to enforce boundaries. Those lessons have made me wiser, stronger, and more prepared for whatever comes next. Have you ever had to set hard boundaries in a relationship? What did that experience teach you? Share your stories in the comments below. I would love to hear how you handled similar situations and what you learned from them. If this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Thank you for listening, and remember that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to stand firm when others cross your boundaries. Wishing you all healthy, respectful relationships built on mutual appreciation rather than convenience or advantage.